why don't you just, let's,
Sarah's gone.
Denise is over there.
Hey, Casper.
Casper the cat. Sing.
Talk more? What?
Yep, that's perfect, thank you.
Okay.
thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate council members getting together here, coming down to the holiday crunch time. But we have a first order of business for our town council meeting tonight. We have an executive session. So first order of business. Pam, do you want to call the roll first, and then we'll call for our vote on the executive session?
Absolutely. All right, let's begin with Bill Infante. Okay, Glenn Drummond.
Present.
Thank you. David Knight.
Here.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Present.
Thank you. Ryan Slack. Gary Tenenbaum. And Bill King.
Here.
Okay, we have 4 council members present.
Quorum. I think those other gentlemen are maybe waiting on the other channel.
It's quite possible. If somebody would let me know that when we're done.
Yep, Gary is, he texted and he was on a work-related call, and so he's, I've just texted him to see when he thought he might join, but he'll probably just join directly to the exec.
James, are you gonna start that other one, or?
Yeah, it's already started and on. I'm
Okay.
gonna run back over there here in a second.
The motion to go into executive session, and then we'll depart this meeting, right? So,
Yes, correct.
motion to go into executive session.
Mayor, I move that town council enter executive session for the proposed purpose of discussing the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of property interest. RS 24-6-40T2-4A, more specifically to discuss Lot 4 Mid-Valley Center and to discuss a gift conveyance of real property from, I'm not even gonna try that, from
So-
LLC company.
Sofico
There you go.
LLC.
We have a second?
Second.
All right. So been moved and seconded. Can we do a voice vote, or we need a roll call?
You can do a voice vote.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're in executive session, so.
So hop on over to the other side and we'll see you guys back here.
Here I go.
you being trained?
Thanks, Susan. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the December 22nd meeting of the Town Council, Town of Basalt. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Happy holidays to all. For those of you that are looking in, I know this is a busy time of year, and for those that are viewing our meeting, we appreciate your attendance. With that, I'd ask Pam to call a roll. Thank you.
Here we go. Okay. Let's begin with Gary Tenenbaum.
Here.
Bill Infante.
Here.
Glenn Drummond.
Here.
David Knight.
Here.
Elise Hoddle.
Present.
Ryan Slack.
Here.
And Bill Kane.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Our first order of business tonight is to approve a consent agenda which consists of minutes from December 8th, 2020. So appreciate a motion. And by the way, I have to say I will do my best to expedite this meeting tonight, knowing how critical it is this time of year. And if we can't get this done in an hour, I will volunteer to submit to the dreaded vote of no confidence if we can't get this done before 7 o'clock. So with that consent agenda, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second. Seconded, moved, seconded. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We will open the meeting for public comment at this point. So any of you calling in, please let us know your name, address, and keep comments to 3 minutes. Identify your name and address when making comments. Comments should be courteous and civil and constructive, and town council will make no decision other than provide direction to our staff. So with that, the phone is open for public comment.
And I'll just add to those comments on the online version of the agenda. With the agenda, there is the instructions for how to access the meeting, and the easiest way is to hit the link that's there that says Zoom US, and then they'll ask you for your name and your email address, or you can call 1-669-900-6833, and the webinar ID is 998-7041-5015, and I believe that Grassroots has those numbers also up on YouTube and on the Grassroots TV. And so far, we haven't received any indication from anybody that wanted to speak, right, Pam? So maybe we just give it another 15 seconds. And most, the majority of the items on the agenda are public hearings, so we'll be opening the public hearing for that item. And the resolution that's on the town council is not a public hearing, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. Hearing no public comment, we'll move on to mayor and council reports, comments. So floor is open for council comment. Hearing none. Going. Any comments? All right, we're moving right along then. We'll move to the manager's report.
I'll be quick. Keep you on track there, Mayor. So first, I just wanted to let council know we were able to get about another $25,000 from the CARES Act funding through Pitkin County. And so we were able to make some fun phone calls to the businesses that received the mini grants and inform them that we were going to backfill their initial requests and fully fund those. So Christy did that work today and reported back to me that she got some really nice comments, and we were able to get that in by the original term in which the CARES Act funding was supposed to be spent. Now, today I'm reading from the new federal legislation that they're going to continue that for another year. And so there may be more available to us, but we didn't know that leading up until today. So good news is those businesses got a bit of extra money. And then also you may have heard and gotten that alert on your phone that they're from Pitkin County, that Pitkin County was putting some stricter measures into place that were red level measures. I want to be certain, just to clarify for the public, that we are not in level red, but so we're like in orange plus, and they've just added measures to it that are within the red. And the reason they're doing that is to ultimately try to stay out of the red, so that there's greater flexibility to roll some of those back if in fact we're able to get infection rates and some of the other and keep some of the other indicators low. And so I think they were just trying to preempt a state mandate that they moved to red. Eagle County is still in orange, and so I think there was a call from several of the businesses in Pitkin, restaurants in particular, of really wanting to stay open at some level, and so I think that was the accommodation in part that was made. So with that, I just wanted to update on those two things. Thanks, Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. So yeah, I won't take much time with it, but we probably all know Eagle County is going to disperse before the end of 2020 $1 million and another $2 million. So we've got $3 million that will be dispersed countywide directly to help restaurant, retail, and Main Street businesses. And they're going to administer those grants directly. So we thought maybe we would be possibly managing the application process for town of Basalt, but that does not appear to be the case. Looks like Eagle County is going to do that directly. So that's a nice chunk of money, and hopefully that'll be helpful. And we obviously have more federal money coming down the pipeline as a result of Congress's action this week. So, okay, enough on that. So with the manager's report complete, we move on to council actions. The first order of business tonight is item 7A, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 19, series of 2020. This is an ordinance of the town of Basalt, Colorado, approving a contract to buy and sell real estate with Shelton Properties, LLC, for the purchase of Lot 4, Mid-Valley Center PUD, Basalt, Colorado. So Ryan and Jeff will explain the state of affairs, and we'll have discussion and go from there.
Jeff, do you want me to just kick off with some of the general highlights of how we got here, and then I'll let you dive into some of the technical detail on the legal side?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So some of this you've heard before, but I think just for the record and for perhaps some of the public that may not have heard this in the past, the Public Works Department has been operating out of its current site, which is about an acre or so, for a number of years. And back in 2006, the town identified a need for expanding. Pam, I'm sorry, are you trying to get my attention?
I am. I just wanted to alert you all that Stacy Kraft is on here, and I don't know if she may have some comments at some point, just to let you know she is attending.
Yeah, we'll open it up to public
Yeah.
comment after Ryan and Jeff have made their presentation.
Sounds good. And so in 2006, we had identified a need. We've grown quite a bit since then. Population in Basalt alone, just within the town limits, has increased by 1,000, which doesn't include the rest of the Mid-Valley or the Valley, the Rungford Valley for that matter. And so the demand for services has really gone up. And the Public Works Department, they maintain our roads that include snow plowing, the water system in East Basalt. They take care of the parks as well. and our affordable housing units and facilities. So they have quite a bit on their plate, and as a result have, you know, different pieces of equipment that, you know, our aim ultimately is to get those under roof, not all of them conditioned, but just out of the elements, mainly out of the sun, believe it or not, that can damage those over time. And so, as I said, back in 2006, we started looking at this. In 2016, I think the search got a little more serious, and there was actually an appraisal done on a property that didn't turn out to make sense, but nonetheless, just sort of an indicator of the town's interest in pursuing this over time. And then in 2019, when the town council adopted its strategic framework, you know, they did refocus their efforts on finding a suitable place for public works. And we found that as well in our work plan this year, and it's, you know, very specific to, you know, locate and you know, pursue funding for the site. And in early 2020, we found the Shelton site. What's attractive about the Shelton site is its location in part, and its size. The location is sort of right in the middle of East and West Basalt. A lot of our service calls are going over into the Willits area now. There were other sites around, and we looked at probably 8 different sites over time. And you know, some of them just weren't suitable because of size. Others weren't suitable because of the distance from our service center. And so, you know, I think with the Shelton site, it really finds balance with all of those things that we were looking at. And so we talked to the then town council and put it under contract. And you know, really for us, when COVID hit, we hit the pause button. But you know, as a local government, we need to look at the immediate needs of the community, but we still have to continue looking, you know, down the road 10 and 20 years. And you know, this piece of land is available now. We're fortunate after hitting that pause button. You know, Christy did a lot of work and revenue modeling for the remainder of the year. And we were fortunate to have, you know, a strong tax year. And so with this purchase, we would still, after the purchase, meet our 40% council reserve policy, as well as have an additional $1.3 million or so in that reserve. And so, you know, we're in a strong fiscal position. And so that's why tonight, you know, the staff is recommending that we move forward with this. The due diligence that Jeff will walk us through was very thorough, and I think we've struck a great deal with Mr. Shelton. So with that, Jeff, if you want to jump in.
Thanks. I plan on running through a few procedural things, some of the due diligence work that was done, and then the proposed resolution of some of the objection issues that were raised. So as you know, this contract was first introduced by ordinance on September 22nd. It was set for a public hearing and second reading on October 13th, and that public hearing was continued several times to October 27th, November 10th, November 24th, December 8th, and now December 22nd. And so the contract that was entered was subject to town council approval. And so since it was entered, as a result of all these continuances, we have entered 3 amendments to that contract to just continue on the contract deadlines, our objection resolution and proposed closing dates under that contract, as we work towards some of the title issues that I'll get into in a minute. So now we have prepared a 4th amendment to that contract that would propose to resolve all of the issues that we have discovered and objected to through the course of the contract. So next, I'll just kind of go through some of the due diligence review that was done with respect to the property. Of course, the town received a title commitment and did a title review of all the title issues, off-title issues, obtained a survey and reviewed all survey issues, had an appraisal completed of the property. The town had Sopris Engineering prepare some site plans for how the town might utilize the property to make sure that it was suitable for its needs. The town conferred with a local broker to make sure that there weren't, or to do its diligence as to any other properties that might be available on the market, or otherwise evaluate the suitability of this property for the town's needs, and confirm that, you know, properties of this type are scarce, and this is one that would suit the town's needs. So through all of that due diligence review, there were really 6 main issues that were identified as areas that needed some additional review and resolving. The first of those related to some personal property that comes along with the real property. Some of the property that is part of the contract is titled separately than the real property. And so there were a few issues related to how that was titled. And one of the objections that was raised was to ensure that title to those items would be satisfactorily conveyed to the town free and clear. The second issue related to the Mid-Valley Metro District. There is an agreement that would require the property to be connected to the district at some point in time. It currently is not. And so part of that objection was, one, to obtain some more information as to the timing and need to connect to the district, and then come up with a potential resolution of that issue with the seller. And I'll get into that a little bit later. The next issue related to access easements serving the property. The property is accessed by a driveway that departs from the intersection of East Valley Road and Original Road. That driveway crosses property that is owned by Loose Cannon LLC, which is the umbrella roofing property. There is not an existing easement for the driveway as it crosses that property that benefits Lot 4. There is an easement over the driveway that benefits Lot 3. And so one of the issues was to resolve that there would be an express easement, not just a prescriptive or any other type of implied right to use that driveway across the umbrella property. The next issue that we identified and completed review of related to the access permits that might be needed for the property. This is an area where there are CDOT access permits that are issued, or that may need to be issued. Lot 3 of the Mid-Valley Center does have an access permit that allows for ingress access over the driveway that's shared with the access to Lot 4. Allows for ingress only and egress out of the parking lot back out onto East Valley Road. There's not an existing access permit to Lot 4. However, there's not one needed based on a kind of the grandfathered use of the property. And the same goes for the neighboring umbrella property. So we worked with CDOT to determine what, if any, access permit might be needed based on a change of use for the town as a public works facility. And in conferring with CDOT, the feedback we got was that this intersection and this access area is a bit of a problem, in that there is a 5-pronged intersection, and that based on the change of use, the town would need to get an access permit from CDOT. And in order to do that, this needs to be cleaned up a little bit. We can't have this situation into the future where there's 5-pronged access. It's potentially dangerous. And so to that end, the town undertook a review of, okay, well, what type of improvements might need to be made to this intersection to allow for CDOT to issue an access permit. And so through Sopris Engineering, we developed some plans, and also in conferring with the Lot 4 owner and the neighboring property owner, Loose Cannon of the umbrella property. And ultimately, CDOT got a comfort level with a proposed plan that would result in the 5-pronged intersection really being 4-pronged. That is original road coming off of Highway 82, East Valley Road, an expanded driveway to access that would then serve as an access to Lot 4, the umbrella property, and Lot 3. That expanded driveway access would be a 2-lane driveway to allow for ingress and egress. And then the fourth prong would go to Up Valley towards the Aspen Basalt campground. Along with that, we prepared some cost estimates as to what that would cost to make those improvements, to then work on how we might address that with the seller and the neighboring property owner umbrella. So I'll get into resolution of that issue here in a bit, but that was one of the title issues that took some time to work through and kind of explains many of these continuances. But the bottom line, I think now, is that we're in a position to recommend to council that we have a resolution of that issue that is acceptable to the town and would really work for all of the properties in this location. The other issue we reviewed in more detail relates to the CDOT access control plan that governs this area. There is, as part of that plan, long-term planning contemplates an extension of Original Road between Original and Widget Street. There aren't any current plans to make that extension or require that extension by CDOT, and particularly not for the town's current use of that property. And so ultimately that was determined to be not a factor that would cause the town to not pursue and use this property as a public works facility. And so we were able to have some dialogue and discussion to get a better comfort level with that access control plan. And then lastly, there was just a minor survey, minor issue that arose as a result of the survey, showing some minor encroachments onto this property from the umbrella property, and based on some lean-to structures that have been on the umbrella property for some time that slightly encroach into the Lot 4 property. So those were some of the due diligence review, some of the review that was done as part of this due diligence process and working through those issues we've identified and how to resolve them. So I guess where we are now is to introduce into the record this fourth amendment to the contract that would include all of the resolution of all of these issues. And one thing that might be helpful before I do that, and I kind of omitted this as I was going through this discussion, was just to show everyone a drawing that was put together that shows the current access and some of those easements that I described that would be used for access to the property. So James, if you wouldn't mind putting that up, that'd be great.
Is this the one you're looking for, Jeff, here?
Perfect. So as you can see in this picture, in this drawing, what it shows is what improved intersection and access improvements would look like. And again, this would take a 5-pronged intersection into a 4-pronged intersection, expand that driveway as it accesses Lot 4 to a 2-lane, and then create a new access over to that umbrella property, so it would not come off of that intersection of Original and East Valley Road. And then under this plan, result in a bit of a safety improvement. Those shaded areas show some of the easements that would need to be exchanged to see that this plan could be implemented, and that just gives you a good picture of what at least what I'm talking about. And so with that, James, I think unless there are any questions on that, I would ask that we put up this final amendment to the contract. So again, the town staff made title objections related to all those issues that we just discussed and worked through how do we resolve them. And so here we are, the proposed resolution of these items would take a few different forms. So the first would be a reduction in the purchase price This property was originally listed at $2 million. We went under contract at 1.825. The property appraised at 1.785. And then the cost, as I've described, the cost to pursue some of these access and intersection improvements would be one that would be borne by the town. This is in order for the town to utilize this property, we're looking at making these improvements. So we pursued negotiating a corresponding price reduction with the seller, as well as a further price reduction based on some of these other issues that I discussed, and just kind of the diminished utility of the property as a result of them. So the proposed final purchase price would be $1.6 million for the property. The next item would be, it relates to these, or the next two items really relate to these access issues. And so number two would be that as a condition of closing, the Lot 4 owner and the owner of the umbrella property would need to exchange easements to allow for legal access to this property in the expanded driveway depiction. And so those would be easements that would get recorded prior to closing. And in the event that those were not finalized or otherwise not agreed to by the parties, that the town would still retain the right to terminate the contract, and that would be the condition of closing. We've been working through these issues with the owner of Lot 4 and the owner of the umbrella property, and we have an agreement in principle to this term amongst the three parties. The next item would be that as a condition of closing, that the town and Loose Cannon, the owner of the umbrella property, enter into an agreement where the two parties agree to pursue and construct the access and intersection improvements that were generally depicted on that site plan that was just on the screen. This is just our way of ensuring that the owner of the umbrella property is on board with this and would allow for these improvements to be constructed. That agreement would do a few things. Again, it would be an agreement to pursue this project, and as consideration of that for the town to umbrella, the town would cover the fees and costs that umbrella would incur as part of the negotiation of that agreement and to implement it. The town would of course pursue these and then obtain access permits for both Lot 4 and the umbrella property to really legalize or see that through and ensure that there's proper access permits in place for CDOT to both of those properties. The agreement also would grant a license to the town to implement and undertake all of those construction activities. There's some further assurances in there to see through that the project is done. And there's also one other element in there to resolve that encroachment issue that I had mentioned earlier related to those lean-to structures, just to ensure that there aren't any adverse possession issues that might arise as a result of that. And actually, James, if you wouldn't mind just pulling up, I have a copy of that agreement that you can put on the screen just to make sure that those terms are in front of council and that there aren't any other questions, that there aren't any questions specifically as to the form of that agreement. Where we're at now, again, is that we have an agreement in principle to this, and that the closing of the property would be conditioned on a final agreement being entered by the parties, and that in the event that for whatever reason that didn't occur, the town would retain the right to terminate the contract up to and through the closing date. James, if you could just scroll down to that third page, that'd be great. Again, yeah, this page really sets forth those terms that the town would pursue and complete the intersection improvements, that the umbrella property would grant the town a license to complete those improvements, that that fifth prong of the intersection that serving the umbrella property would be, use of that would terminate, and there would be the new driveway would be used. That would really results in a big safety improvement to this intersection. The town will obtain access permits, cover the fees incurred by umbrella, and just final term, otherwise addressing those access easements that will be entered between the current lot owner and umbrella that would kind of pave the way for these improvements to be done, so to speak. That there's an affirmation that that's going to be completed, and that if there needs to be on the back end any further work related to those easements, there's a commitment to do that. And so then, James, I think that covers it on that document. If you could go, you wouldn't mind going back to that amendment.
Okay, is that it, Jeff?
There are just a couple more comments. I know I'm going here for a while here.
Okay.
Lastly, not lastly, but a couple of other items. This amendment to the contract would resolve the title issues related to the personal property, mobile home inclusions, just ensuring that those things would be appropriately conveyed to the town. And then lastly, that there would be 14 days from the date of closing to allow for the current owner of the property to fully vacate the site. And so I think that covers it. Again, there were to date 3 amendments to the contract executed by Ryan just to move these these contract dates forward. Those were dated October 14th, November 16th, and December 3rd. And then this draft amendment of today would be of today's date. So this town staff would recommend that the town council approve this ordinance on second reading. And just for clarity, add a condition that the town council approves all those amendments that have been entered thus far, plus this December 22nd amendment that would resolve all of the title objection matters as has been set forth and discussed here at the town council meeting. So with that, I think that kind of wraps up what I wanted to present to council and the public. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you.
If I
Any
missed
questions
anything,
from council to Jeff or to Ryan relative to status of our proposal here? Hearing none, then I would suggest that we open the public hearing and note that the public hearing would be open at 6:36 p.m. And Susan, if you could possibly recite call-in directions or
Sure.
how to go forward here.
And I think Caesar has them also up on Grassroots TV and on YouTube. But you can call 1-669-900-6833, and then you'll be asked your name and your email address. And then the webinar ID is 998-7041-5015. And it's actually easier to go to the online version of the agenda and hit the link that says zoom.us, and then Pam elevates you to the speaking position. And I believe we have one member of the public, Stacy Kraft, that is teed up to speak, correct, Pam?
Yes, I've just added Stacy. I'm adding Stacy. There she is. She had her hand up to speak.
Okay. Stacy, can you hear us? Are you on?
But you're on mute, Stacy. There
Can
you
you
go.
hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
fine.
great. Thank you. Okay, cool. Just getting the hang of all this. I'm still concerned that this process hasn't been super transparent. There are numerous non-public executive sessions where you've discussed this purchase. The procurement process should have been very publicly discussed because it's a public works facility being paid for by public funds. Taxpayers have no idea if you're discussing the merits of alternative parcels or discussing issues with the Shelton parcel that negatively affect the value. Tonight, we're just now hearing about all these issues that are in the amend extend document. We're just now hearing about the price reduction, which I'm glad there has been some negotiation on the price. But we're just hearing about this minutes before you vote on this very expensive parcel. It's still triple the tax assessor valuation, and it's still less than an acre of functional land. I'd encourage you to put the pause button on this purchase for 2 weeks. Take a look at 200 Few Lane. where the maintenance facility is already located. If you look at that parcel, I sent you guys an email about this today. There's a ton of unused and underutilized space on that parcel. I sent you a little sketch. You could put a 2-story facility there, possibly add a lot more garage bays that open up to the street. You might have space for town staff offices, maybe even an affordable housing unit. I sent my sketch to an architect today, and he said he thought my idea looked doable on that parcel. If you're about to spend $1.6 million on less than an acre of land, you might be able to do something really great on the existing parcel. You might even be able to ask the landowner next door if he'd sell you 25,000 square feet of additional land if you wanted to make that a little bit bigger. There are other parcels around Basalt and Willits and Elgibel that could be available if the town would just do the procurement process correctly. And a lot of the problems have stemmed from the fact that this wasn't done correctly. When you're buying something like this, it's complicated and expensive. You hire a specialized land broker. That person sends letters to every owner who has lands that conform to your needs, and you offer them some incentive to sell to you. When someone comes to me to buy a condo now, that's exactly what I do. There aren't many condos out there for purchase. I send letters, I find them property. It's not as easy with land. There's not as much land, obviously, but the process hasn't been respected. There are processes in real estate that are just standard procedure, and this whole Shelton thing has not followed standard procedure at all. A lot of these easement issues and things like that should have been discussed the first 2 weeks that you went under contract way back in March, and that would have, or even before you put in an offer, because that would have affected the valuation. Just really standard real estate 101 stuff hasn't been done in this process, and I'd encourage you to put the brakes on it for 2 more weeks. We have fantastic architects in this town. They turned that crappy 7-Eleven bridge into something that looks like the High Line in New York. I mean, we could figure out a way to engineer something really cool over on Few Lane probably, or find another parcel. But let's do this the way you're supposed to do it. Hire a professional and have them do it for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Pam, I don't have anything. Pam, do you?
I do not.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I wonder if I might just respond for the public record to some of
Sure.
Stacy's comments with regard to our existing facility. I think that from somebody looking at that from the outside, it may appear that there's underutilized land on it, but the proposal that you all received today in your email showed an additional garage being placed at the front of that property. Unfortunately, at the front of that property is also a high production well that's owned by the town and we utilize for the town's drinking water. And so that's not something that's easily moved. And there are required setbacks from it that you need to respect so that it basically stays clean. The additional property from the landowner to the west that she was alluding to, that is under conservation easement, and that expanded use of a public works facility, we have tried that, and Gary's here, he can attest to the fact that wouldn't be allowed under that conservation easement. And I think part of the issue is we're not looking to cover the entire property with buildings. We do need some of that extra space to get our equipment out, but we also have needs such as storage of sanding material during the winter, some road-based material. We also do quite a bit of street sweeping and being able to deposit temporarily those materials there. And so there's some of those outdoor needs that we have. And so, I respect where she's coming from. I just think that this process, as far as hiring a professional, we did that. Jeff has done a really good job shepherding us through this process. It's very typical for attorneys to do land deals, and I think you guys as a group really pushed us to make sure we were turning over all stones, and I think we did that. And I think at the end of the day, for the reasons I cited earlier, this deal does work for the town and will bring us into the future and, just allow us to continue providing those services that the town and the community want. So thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Any additional comment? Any additional public comment?
Pam, anything else?
Okay. With that, would council like to comment? Is there a motion? I would be pleased to maybe tee up a bit of a conversation or a motion. One is, this is an infrastructure spend. I think that really effective and prudent local governments and federal government at this point, should be focused on investing in their communities and infrastructure spending. We have the cash, we have the ability to do this, and we have a site that is well located, it's fairly priced, it's adequate for our needs, and it's superior to the alternatives that we've been able to uncover. The question I would ask to anyone is relative to price is, who doesn't feel like they paid too much for their house? Who doesn't pay too much for their rent? This is a fact of life, that land is increasingly scarce. The demand curve continues to sweep upward, and this is the world we live in. So I'd say we act now and acquire this parcel and secure our future and not put ourselves in a circumstance where we're ferrying vehicles to support our town from down valley someday. And I think the staff has done an admirable job in terms of negotiating price, in terms of unearthing all of the critical issues that are needed to develop this property. So I fully intend to vote in favor of this and would leave you with those thoughts. Thanks.
Bill, I'll chime in because I probably have the most thoughts that are from a different perspective. This is Bill Infante. I frankly remain perplexed that we, in my opinion, have single-mindedly focused on the Shelton property to the exclusion of options that are viable. We've pursued a path that has been one of great resistance, and the Shelton property is not fairly valued. It's the most expensive that we've contemplated. The fact that our budget's secure is not a reason to overpay for anything, including a maintenance property. So I reject that as an argument for this property. We know from input from local real estate professionals, including the one that we belatedly hired for the town, that other properties do exist for significantly lower cost. And as of very recently, we know that properties immediately adjacent to Shelton are also available for approximately 1/2 the cost. So my feeling, Bill, is that we can do a hell of a lot better for our residents and taxpayers.
Thanks, Bill. Other comments, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on council a long time, and I really, I'm remiss to look at this, that we're finally doing this now. We looked at the few property for a long time, the property that we already own. It is not capable of being able to handle what we need for really managing Basalt. And the other properties on the market right now are not acceptable for what we are trying to do. We need to put this in an industrial area. We need to put this in the middle of town. And, I look at this as, this is a step in the right direction. This is a step, these properties, if we magically find a new one in the future, we can always sell this on the open market. And so this is not a done deal like, whoa, Basalt's going to own it forever. It might not. It might be able to purchase a property next door one of these days and expand this parcel. So I look at this is the best option. And the reason why it's more expensive is because it's in the perfect industrial place for this type of use. The others are not. And so, yeah, you can buy, if you just go by acreage, that's not the metric that I'm looking at. I'm looking at utility, and the utility for this parcel to me is superior to the other parcels. And, we talk about climate and all this other stuff. We need to put our vehicles that use a ton of fossil fuels. Hopefully in the future, we can have magically electric snow plows and all this other stuff, and we might. But for now and for the foreseeable future, we don't. And if we can reduce the driving that our snow plows have to make and all of our vehicles have to make, that's a huge climate win. And we haven't really talked about that, but I think we should, because it's something where, being closer to the people that we actually have to service is critical to that. And I look at this, this is solving also a bad entrance to part of Basalt. And, I just look at it as, I think I feel remiss that we didn't do something earlier, because now we're spending more. And I believe if we don't do this, we're going to spend more in the future. And so I am totally in support of this. And to me, this is a great first step. Let's see what else comes on the market in the future. We can move, we can change things up if we need to, but let's get this going and really help our staff and do one of the major functions of what Basalt does is service our town. And so I'm in support.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I move the town council adopt ordinance number 19, series of 2020 on second reading.
Before the second on that motion, in my discussion earlier, I recommended that any motion include a condition or an amendment to the ordinance, just for clarity, that would approve not only the contract, but I'll just read the language briefly. That would be an amendment to the ordinance, that it would include but not be limited to all those matters set forth in the agreements to amend, extend the contract dated October 4th, 2020, November 16, 2020, December 3, 2020, and December 22, 2020, which the council hereby ratifies and approves. And again, those amendments are for those to extend the contract dates and then to resolve all of those objection issues. So this would just be a matter of clarity for the purpose of approving the contract. And so before there was a second, I might put that back to Councilor Slack for consideration. If you wanted to say with such amendments.
With such amendments, and I can say it again if needed.
Second.
Okay, moved and second. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Pam, I would ask you to call the roll, please.
Absolutely. Let's begin with David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante.
No, for the reasons cited.
Thank you, Bill. Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. And Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. I got 10 minutes before I get the vote of no confidence here, so I'm going to keep us moving here, guys. The next item of business is public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 30 of 2020. It's an ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the 2021 budget and providing for a supplemental appropriation related to the purchase of Lot 4 Mid-Valley Center PUD, Basalt, Colorado. Ryan, Jeff,
Mr. Mayor,
you can do this expeditiously.
We'll crank forward. I think you've got the ordinance backwards. If you're not looking at the amended agenda, and I'd be happy to read that for you.
Okay.
Because we had a supplemental appropriation to the 2020 budget, and now of course we'll be making this expenditure in 2021. So we want to just go ahead and have council deny that ordinance 20 series of 2020 first, if we can do that.
Do we have to have a public hearing?
Yeah, but we should read it into the record. So Ryan, Mayor,
Yes.
if we could have Ryan read the ordinance title, or I can read it. Public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 20, series of 2020, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the 2020 budget and providing for a supplemental appropriation related to the purchase of Lot 4, Mid-Valley Center, PUD, Basalt, Colorado.
So clarify this, Ryan, we're denying 20, but approving ordinance 30?
That's correct.
Okay. And this requires two separate motions and two separate public hearings?
That's right.
Okay. Well, I will open the public hearing on ordinance number 20, series of 2020. Let the record show that's at 6:53 p.m.
And
So
just
Susan.
a note that you can access the public hearing from the town council agenda, and Caesar has the phone numbers up on the YouTube and Grassroots, which is 1-669-900-6833, and the webinar ID is 998-7041-5015, and we don't have anybody. Oh, Stacy might be queued up. Is she, Pam, to speak on this one? Okay.
Can you clarify? It sounded like Bill Infante just said that we could buy twice the land for the same price directly adjacent.
I can't hear any of this.
Stacy, we're losing you. I'm so sorry. It's very choppy.
Maybe try to turn your camera. Oh, now you're back on.
There, try
Yeah,
again.
that was weird. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Everybody just kind of froze. So my question is, can you clarify? It sounded like Bill Infante just said that the town could possibly purchase twice the amount of land directly adjacent to the Shelton parcel for the same amount of money. Is that correct?
No, there's not a piece of land available directly adjacent. There is a piece of land available on Highway 82 down the road that, you know, potentially has its own set of issues. And, you know, further, it's in unincorporated Eagle County, and it is also in our master plan, not slated for this type of industrial use. It's actually a residential use. So it would, there's hair on it, and, you know, staff has identified the piece of property as the subject of tonight's discussion for a lot of reasons that we've put into the record, and why it works for us. This would put us further away from our service center in the downtown area, and so yeah, that adjacency was a bit of a misnomer. It's down the road by, you know, a mile or so.
But it is twice the size.
I would say he misrepresented that.
Okay. But it sounds
let
like
me
it's twice the
clarify.
size.
And we don't
This
know
is,
what the
are we doing public comment or what?
area
Point
is.
of order.
Yeah, I got a point of order. You know, that we're asking for public comment on ordinance number 20. This is not a freewheeling discussion. So if you have comments specific to ordinance number 20, please state your name and all that. Stacy, this is not
Okay, so I'm sorry. Yeah, Stacy Kraft. Stacy Kraft, I lived in downtown Basalt. I was just concerned that there's possibly twice the amount of land available 1 mile away.
Yeah, well,
That sounds like a better deal.
well, it does sound
to
that
anyone,
way.
I would think.
This is off the base paths here, but I personally inspected the site. I think that we would be doing an enormous disservice to the public to organize our public works facility within the visual corridor of Highway 82. It's just immediate adjacent to the highway, and it's zoned for residential development in Eagle County, and would be a really irresponsible thing for us to do to impose an industrial use right in the kind of scenic corridor of the highway. So it just looks like a really inadequate parcel for what we want to do. But it is on the surface appealing because it's 2 acres of land, and it does have, again, on the surface, some appeal, but I think we concluded that it would pose more problems than solutions. So that's why it was rejected. So again, comments on ordinance number 20. Ryan, would you please refresh our memory about what the recommended motion is here on ordinance 20?
Yeah, so we're just looking for a denial on second reading of ordinance number 20, Mayor.
Okay, so that we can clear the deck here for ordinance number 30, which is coming up in a moment. So may I have a motion for denial of ordinance number 20, series of 2020?
Mayor, I move
The town council deny ordinance number 20, series of 2020 on second reading.
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, we got to call the roll. Actually, we have had the public hearing. Pam, if you please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan. Bill Kane,
Yes.
Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante.
I'm going to abstain because I'm not sure precisely what we're doing other than rejecting an ordinance that had been proposed for 2020 but is now overcome by the event of having to push this to 2021. So let me just abstain.
Okay, thank you, sir. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you, Elise. Glenn Drummond.
yes.
Thank you. And David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Pam, did you get my vote on that?
I did, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, that concludes that item. The next order of business is item number 7B, which is public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 30, series of 2020, ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the 2021 budget and providing a supplemental appropriation related to the purchase of Lot 4 Mid-Valley PUD, Basalt, Colorado. Ryan and Jeff.
Yeah, so this effectively takes place of that ordinance number 20. It is the appropriation that allows council to spend that money. We are bringing it along with this purchase, and we have the entire year to do it, but just for added transparency and just given the size of the expenditure. And so just kind of that housekeeping issue. And Christy, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
The only thing I would add is that it's not going to affect the timing of the purchase. The ordinance to approve the purchase would allow the town to move forward. And we decided to try to make this in conjunction with the timeline of the approval as much as possible, but we'll have the second reading on January 12th.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would suggest we open the public hearing for public comment on ordinance number 30. Susan?
Yeah, I've already gone through the instructions on how to obtain access to our public hearing. Caesar Grassroots has the information also up on the web and on Community Grassroots TV and YouTube. And I don't believe anybody has identified that they want to speak, correct, Pam? You can call that 1-669-900-6833, and the webinar ID is 998-70-41-50-15. So Pam, no one's identified that they want to speak, correct?
There's no one sitting in there in the attendees section.
Okay.
And just a correction on the
December 22nd,
motion.
I'm thinking people have some better things to be doing, possibly.
Just a correction on the motion, that's 2021. So the motion is to approve it on first reading and set the public hearing and second reading for January 12th, 2021. That's like me writing checks.
Yep. Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing. Let the record show 7:03 p.m. And with that, I would entertain a motion from council to approve ordinance number 30 on first reading and set a date of January 12th, 2021 for second reading.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 30, series of 2020 on first reading, set the public hearing and second reading for January 12th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Okay, thank you. Let's begin with Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. And Bill Infante.
No, for reasons previously cited.
Thank you, Bill. Motion carries.
All right, thank you, everyone. We move to our final action item for tonight. It's resolution number 45, series of 2020, resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, accepting a gift conveyance of real property from, I hope I do justice to pronunciation, Sofieco LLC. I'm probably way overdoing that, but it's so Ryan and Jeff can do a brief executive summary on this donation.
Take it away, Jeff.
Sure. So the town was approached by Sofieco they would like to gift a parcel of land to the town. It's parcel 9 of Meadows 3. This is a property that is adjacent to the lakeside townhomes and the rugby field. It's vacant land. The purpose of the gift is for tax reasons from Sofieco, but in order to effectuate that gift, the gift in donation to the town would be free of any conditions or restrictions on use or otherwise. In reviewing title to the property, there are not any material issues to be concerned with. I think there is a recent appraisal, and somebody can correct me on this, on town staff, of around $600,000 or $700,000, I believe, for the property. It is zoned R4 PUD, and otherwise is a generous gift from Sofieco to the town, and this resolution would approve acceptance of that real property and allow for this to close by the end of the year.
Great. Thank you. I would suggest that in conjunction with our motion here, that we direct staff to thank the donor here and give them assurances that we'll be good stewards of this property. So there is no public hearing required. The floor is open for a motion to accept this generous gift from Sofieco LLC.
Mayor, I move the town council approve resolution number 45, series of 2020 as presented, and thank Sofieco.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, Pam. I think we need to call the roll on this.
Yes, sir, we do. Okay, let's begin with Elise Hoddle.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill. Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you, Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you, David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you, and Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. I think that's it, guys. I just want to sign off by saying how much I enjoy and appreciate each and every one of my fellow counselors. You people are great to work with. I really enjoy our similar views, and I like our different views too. So it's all a healthy kind of dialogue, and it's a healthy process. And I just hope in 2021 we get to meet face to face and be done with Zoom at some point in the future. So happy holidays, have a great time. And we got, some challenging times ahead this winter, and but we'll power through and see everyone after the first of the year.
Mayor Kane,
Yes, sir.
since it's the season of giving, I talked to your colleagues here and we've all decided to give you 8 minutes back so you can stay in the club.
That is cool. That's really good. I was really sweating it.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. What you never want is the vote of confidence. So thanks, everyone. Have a happy holiday. Chief, good seeing you, sir. Thanks for sitting through this with us. So have a great holiday, and hopefully we'll get some new snow and more good skiing.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays to all.
Holidays.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.
All the best, guys.
Okay, are we off?